For those that are following the agenda, we're going to skip over to discussion item 1, and that is accept a report from the County Administrator's Office and staff of the Department of Conservation and Development, the GIS Division, on redistricting efforts to date, update the board and the public on supervisorial district workshops held October 23rd through October 28th, provide a summary of communities of interest proposals and supervisorial district map proposals submitted by the public, review the criteria for adopting new district boundaries and maps, present concept drafts of possible supervisorial districts, receive input from the public, and receive direction from the Board of Supervisors on the structure of a final map or final map alternatives and related matters. This is going to be presented by David Toit, our former county administrator, and I'm going to open the public hearing.
Good morning, Chair and Supervisors. Thank you very much. This is our 4th public hearing, as the Supervisor has mentioned, and essentially just some quick reminders. We do this every 10 years. The last time the board redistricted was in 2011. In California, most counties follow the same process that we are following, which is that the Board of Supervisors is responsible for drawing the supervisory districts. This has to be done using the official U.S. Census data as modified by the California official redistricting data, which was issued on September 20th of this year, which obviously, as we all know, made the redistricting process condensed in time, but we've done our best to make sure that we've not only met all the requirements of the law, but more importantly, have made sure that we've had plenty of opportunities for the public to participate in the process. As a reminder, we must, by law, be done by December 15th, 2021. And there are a number of notice steps that are required, which is why we have set up the schedule that we currently have for the redistricting. This is our current map, and while the goal is to create districts that are substantially equal in population, the law does recognize that there are many reasons why some deviation in population between districts will occur. Things that are necessary to meet the federal and state legal requirements, including the California Fair Maps Act, requirements such as respecting the geographic integrity of an area or of a local community of interest. Because of this, the law specifically allows for a deviation of up to plus or minus 5%. That is generally acceptable as long as other legal requirements are met. The current deviation range, as you can see on this map, is 7.91%. That is the largest deviation, which was 4.35%, and the largest minus deviation, which is minus 3.56. You add those two together, and that's how you end up with 7.91. This is important because, as you'll see a little later as we talk about this, why it is so difficult to keep all cities whole, as some people have requested, due to the fact that we have to stay within those maximum deviations of either 5% above or 5% below. We have tried to do a robust public outreach process. We've increased our media contacts for broader outreach, including targeting outreach to ethnic media with news releases available and disseminated in English, Spanish, and Chinese. We've used the county library system with its multiple locations and the Richmond Library to provide printed materials such as flyers in English, Spanish, and Chinese, and provide internet access and website promotions. County departments, including the Clerk Recorder's Office, the Employment and Human Services, and other departments have shared information on their websites as well as on social media channels. The county's main website and dedicated Contra Costa County Redistricting org website spotlights the redistricting process. It is in multiple graphs and text. It is also linked to the information and input opportunities. The information there is available in English, Spanish, and Chinese, with the added option of Google Translate for even more languages. Our outreach has included social media using increased numbers in overall reach and engagement with frequent email letters sent with specific input opportunities and materials from flyers, frequent asked questions, and graphics to the subscriber list, which included cities, local elected officials, our Census 2020 outreach partners, community organizations, local leaders, advocates, and any individual or organization that was interested in receiving our communications. So in order to reach community and civic-minded organizations that serve the county residents, and in particular those who are underrepresented or non-English speaking, we have built on the outreach of the 2020 Census Complete Count effort. We have distributed our information through our email newsletter to 78 census grantee contracts, plus an additional 100 organizations and individuals in total. We have sent 10 email blasts with a follow-up email to any individual who did not open their initial email. The emails included information on upcoming events and also included the toolkit for community-based organizations to use in outreach if they desired. Email text and toolkits were provided in English, Spanish, and Chinese. Examples of the populations that were served by the organizations that we reached included families, seniors, immigrants, non-English speaking population, low-income individuals and households, families with children under 5, LGBTQ population, prisoner reentry, and youths. As you can see on this slide, we have email subscribers. Anybody who asked, we would add to the list and push that information out to them. We've also had over 7,000 reviews of our dedicated redistricting website, and we've had over $250,000 times Twitter and NetDoor tweets. Hard to say.
That's easy for you to say.
Yeah, exactly. So if you go to our public hearing board order, which is on our website, attachment B has the complete redistricting communications report, which goes into this material in much greater detail. We've also had a robust public hearing schedule, more so than what is required by a minimum of the state law. On August 10th, we had our first redistricting public hearing, and that was held obviously before we had the release of the California State Adjusted Census data. But the reason we did that was because we had set up our redistricting dedicated website on the 1st of August, and we wanted people to have the opportunity to start looking at that and actually start preparing maps if they wish to do so. Then on October 5th, we had our second public hearing, and our October 19th public hearing was held specifically in the evening to make sure that that was available for individuals who might not be able to attend our daily ones. In addition to that, we hosted 3 community online workshops. These were technical workshops intended for the public to learn how the online mapping application works and how to suggest community of interest or supervisory district maps. 2 of those community workshops were conducted in English, one on September 15th and a second one on October 14th. A third workshop was conducted in Spanish on October 13th. All 3 of the workshops were presented online and attended by a total of 24 members of the public. After a welcome by Chair Burgess, the district trainers explained how the District R mapping system worked and gave examples of how to draft suggested communities of interest or supervisory district maps. The complete videos of these sessions are available on our dedicated redistricting website. And again, by looking at those, people can see exactly how to participate and to submit their own maps if they so choose. Additionally, between October 23rd and October 28th, we conducted 6 supervisory district workshops, which were hosted by the individual supervisors. These were held outside of the regular Board of Supervisors meeting times, Saturday morning, Sunday noon, and then evening meetings on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, starting either at 6:30 or 7 p.m. And those meetings were held at a variety of locations, including San Ramon, Pleasant Hill, San Pablo, and Martinez. The days and times were specifically selected to encourage people to participate by providing a variety of opportunities to do so in person, by Zoom, or by phone-in. In total, 21 individuals provided comment, and over 72 individuals were on the Zoom calls but chose not to comment. Again, just as a reminder, we have strict time limits under the statute. We must be done by December 15th. And in order to do that, we actually have to have our hearings done earlier than that time, simply because there is a number of posting requirements, as well as the need to draft the maps so that they comply with all of the state and federal requirements. As I indicated, the requirements under California law was to hold a minimum of 4 public hearings. We will have held more than that, one before the maps were drawn, which we did, and we've had more than 2 after the maps were drawn, and at least one had to be on Saturday or Sunday or after 6 p.m., and we have provided that. The public hearings had to be at a fixed time, which is, you indicated this morning, why, of course, we needed to start with this particular one. One of the requirements is that we have to follow the California Fair Maps Act. It has a series of ranked priorities. To the extent practicable, the districts have to be geographically contiguous, so we have made sure that all maps that we have proposed meet that requirement. And then the geographic integrity of a community of interest has to be respected in a manner that minimizes its division. This is the second highest ranked priority. So this is the one that both the public and the supervisors have been focusing on because of the Voting Rights Act and because of the fact that the Fair Maps Act recognizes that geographic areas such as neighborhoods where residents may have a common interest do not necessarily coincide with the boundaries of a political subdivision such as a city. One of the things we have been very careful about, of course, is that for each map that we have identified, we review the race and ethnicity data, both by total population and by citizen voting age population. It is the citizen voting age population which the Federal Voting Rights Act requires that we take a look at to make sure that we are complying with all requirements. This is a map that shows the majority race and ethnicity throughout the county. As you can see that it is very spread out in terms of the areas, both as it relates to Asian, Black, as well as Latino populations. And so this is another area that we have specifically looked at as we have drafted each map to make sure that we are complying with the Voting Rights Act. So, as I indicated, it's communities of interest that we need to be focusing on. And this is the definition right out of the statute. It's a population that shares common social or economic interests, so that they should be included within a single supervisory district for the purpose of representation. And a community of interest, as we know, can be almost anything, but it has to be identifiable by a specific geographic area. So here are just some examples of communities of interest. We've talked about these at each of the public hearings we've had, as well as the workshops. It can be urban or rural interests, housing patterns, community centers. Certainly city boundaries can also be one, as well as policy issues, people's concerns about crime, education, employment, or economic patterns. If you go to our dedicated redistricting website, we have many more examples of communities of interest. So this is a shot of what our submissions gallery looks like as of November 1st in terms of people who have gone to our site and have submitted their own maps, either for communities of interest or for supervisory district maps. And where you see the speakers' phones, these represent people who have commented on particular maps or perhaps just provided only a portion of maps. If you want to submit your own map, you can very easily go to our dedicated redistricting website, click on the icon which says Share Your Community of Interest, or the icon that says Submit Map Proposals. At that point, you will see what's called our online mapping tool, which is District R. This will take you to the section that will allow you to draft your own proposals as far as communities of interest or supervisory maps. On that site, you can also review, as you see here, all communities of interest and all mapping proposals that have been submitted to date. And if you want, you can just add your own comments to any of these proposals, which you will note that some people have already done. Now, yesterday, we actually received 2 additional maps as well as 1 additional community of interest. Those do not appear in this slide presentation because obviously we would not have had time to meet the notice requirements to post those. So they will be posted and are posted on the redistricting website, but they will be actually added to our next public hearing, which will be on November 23rd. So each meeting that we've had, we've shown any new submissions of either supervisory maps or communities of interest that were submitted since the last hearing, since our last hearing was on October 19th. So on October 25th, for example, we received this community of interest submission, which basically, as you can see, it's from an individual who says they live in North Concord, and they are connected with the city of Concord and want the community interest to show as part of the city of Concord. We've also received maps. This one was provided by the Contra Costa Herald, a proposed map. This came in on October 20th, and this basically shows how the district's proposal was divided. One of the things you have to note is, although they show the district numbers as different, what happens when you go to District R, if you start with which would be Candace Anderson's district, which is at the bottom in kind of the blue, if you start with that one, that automatically becomes District 1. So it looks kind of confusing if you look at this, but District 1 is still John Joya's district, which is actually shown on this map as District 3. So something to keep in mind as you look at these particular maps. We also received...
David, just to note, that looks, other than the number changes, that looks pretty close to a lot of the ones that are under consideration today.
That is correct.
Right.
Thank you. So, as I indicated, one of the issues that has come up by some of the people who have provided information are trying to keep cities whole. And this map basically shows how complex it is. So it was a map that was drawn by an individual basically saying, look, this is a map that shows all the counties whole, and it only has a 7.3% deviation. But what happened was, as the individual looked at it, they were only actually taking the look at one of the maps in terms of one of the districts that preceded that. You will remember, as we said, you have to take the map or by the district that shows the highest deviation on the plus side and add to that the highest deviation on the minus side. In no event can that exceed 10%. But more importantly, in no case can it submit more than 5% either way. So even this one, where the individual says 7.3%, would not meet the requirements and could not be considered as a map. Similarly,
it also, can you go back on that last one?
Yes.
It also, I'm not sure, it also doesn't keep Antioch whole.
That is correct.
I mean, it's showing that the way to keep Concord whole gets you a deviation that's illegal, which is 13%, because you can't go over 10, but it also doesn't keep Antioch whole. Anyway, so just to note.
Or Walnut Creek.
That's a valid point.
Or Walnut Creek, right. It's very Concord centric, put it that way.
So the next map was an attempt to get all of the cities whole, and again, it has the same problem, and that is it exceeds the 10% variation and does not meet the requirements of the law.
David, go back. I have a question on that.
Certainly.
So that keeps every city whole, and it's at 10.55. And so I know the courts wanted the way the law has been interpreted by courts is to try to keep the deviation as small as possible, with the maximum being 10%. And this is at 10.5. So that even with that 0.5% over, you're saying that would make it contrary to the law.
That is correct, Supervisor. Also on this particular map, District 3 actually comes in at 6.2%. Again, remember, the maximum deviation you could have in any district would be 5%. So not only is it over the 10%, but it also exceeds the 5% legal requirement.
Right. Okay.
So it is, as we said, difficult to draw maps that keep cities whole. And this starts the process where I want you to take a look at it. But I did, because these maps are slightly out of, I'll go back. At this point, I'm going to actually turn it over to Chris Howard, who is with our GS, Department of Conservation and Development, GIS mapping. Essentially, I did want to comment on the fact that John Kopchak, our Director of Department of Conservation and Development, as well as Christine Solstein, who is in the GIS division, and Chris Howard, have basically done yeoman work to try and put all of this material together. And it takes a lot of work, and again, it's one of the reasons why, as we look at the process, we're saying, although some people have said, have hearings right up to December 15th, is a practical matter that is not going to work because of all the notice requirements we have to give, as well as making sure that we show the board maps that will meet the Fair Maps Act as well as the Voting Rights Act. So with that, this is a good point to ask Chris to basically talk about why it is so difficult to draw maps that keep cities whole.
Thanks, David. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Board. We're going to take a look here at a map that is fairly similar to some of the proposed maps we've shown. Pinole would go into District 1. Release Valley would be split by school districts. Morgan Territory Road going into District 4. This split of Antioch is similar to map 5 from the last public hearing and the workshops we led. And then in this map, we've made Concord whole. So we've added all of Concord into District 5 and to District 4 rather. And to get District 4 to a 5% variance, we made a little adjustment here in Walnut Creek, adding more of Walnut Creek area into District 2. And you'll see what we end up with is District 2 now is too big. It's at 6.22%, and District 5 is too small. It's negative 7.31%, for a total variance of 13.53%. And we've had some comments that maybe if you made an adjustment in some of the areas of Release Valley or the Walnut Creek split or Morgan Territory Road, you could get that variance down. And that's true, you can. If you add all of Release Valley into District 5, put Morgan Territory Road into District 3, and make a wider split here, or a slightly different split of Walnut Creek, you can get District 2 to 4.85. You can get District 4 to 4.94, but still, District 5 is too small at negative 5.89%. So it needs at least 2,000 people, 2,077 people to get it to 5%. And the only places that District 5 could grow in this scenario would be into Pinole, into Lafayette, into Pleasant Hill, into Concord, into Clayton, or if it were to go into Antioch, District 3 would be too small. And so District 3 would have to come into the San Ramon Valley or into the Central County. So that just puts us in a place where one of, that's the math that we're with in terms of keeping Concord whole. So with that, unless anyone has any questions on that, I'm going to move on to proposed maps that we have prepared. The first map we're going to call proposed map A. This map is very similar to some of the maps from the last meeting. Pinole will go into District 1. Release Valley will be split by the school districts. Walnut Creek will be split by the Highway 24 Interstate 680 corridor. The unincorporated communities of Diablo, Blackhawk, Camino Tasajara, and the rural area of Tasajara Valley will go into District 2. The Morgan Territory Road area that's inside the Mount Diablo Unified School District will go into District 4. The city of Antioch will remain split. Right here is a small annexation from a few years back called Tuscany Meadows. That's been annexed into Pittsburgh, so that will go with Pittsburgh into District 5. And Antioch would be split along Highway 4 and then Cavallo Road all the way up to Fulton Shipyard Road in the north. And then circling around to Concord, we show Concord being split by the railroad right-of-way, Highway 242, Olivera Road, over to Willow Pass Road, around this little neighborhood, following the former Concord Naval Weapons Station boundary, and then back to Willow Pass Road, back to Highway 4. This proposed map A has a total variance of 9.75, with the high of 4.82 in District 2 and a low of negative 4.93 in District 5. Our next map, proposed map B, also puts Pinole into District 1, also Release Valley by school district, Walnut Creek by Highway 24 680, San Ramon Valley into District 2, Morgan Territory Road area by school district into District 4. In Antioch, there's a slightly different split. The annexation goes into District 5 here, and then the split follows Highway 4, and then A Street, then the railroad, and Alpha Way back up to East 18th Street. If you'll notice here in yellow are the districts from the current districts, or in light yellow. So you can see here there's a very small change from the current districts in Antioch in this map proposal. Circling around to Concord, this is the same split as proposed map A. It follows the old railroad right-of-way, Highway 242, Olivera Road, and Willow Pass Road around this neighborhood back to Willow Pass Road. Proposed map B has a total variance of 8.83%, with a high of 4.82% in District 2 and a low of 4% in District 3. Proposed map C, again, Pinole into District 1, Release Valley by school district, Walnut Creek by Highway 24 Interstate 680, San Ramon Valley into District 2, Morgan Territory Road area into District 4. Very similar to the last map, the split of Antioch is a slight change from the current district. So again, the annexation goes into District 5, and then here it follows Highway 4, A Street, the railroad, and then Cavallo Road to East 18th Street. So this one's actually even a little closer to the current boundaries than map B. It's a very slight difference. And then in Concord, we see a much smaller split this time. It follows again the old railroad right-of-way, then Highway 242, then Oliveira Road to Port Chicago Highway, and then Port Chicago Highway to Highway 4 and Highway 4 across. This map proposal has a total variance of 9.16%. It has a high of 4.82% in District 2 and a low of negative 4.33% in District 3. Our final map proposal here is map proposed D. Again, Pinole to District 1, Release Valley by School District, Walnut Creek by the Interstate 680, Highway 24, San Ramon Valley into District 2, Morgan Territory Road into District 4. This map has a very similar split in Antioch to the concept map 5, where it follows Summersville Road to the railroad, to the Union Pacific Railroad, and then follows the railroad over to Highway 160. And then in Concord, this follows the old railroad right-of-way, Highway 242, and Highway 4. So this split here and this split here are the same as in concept map 5 from the last public hearing. This proposed map D has a total variance of 9.77%, with a high of 4.82% in District 2 and a low of negative 4.95% in District 3. That is the end of the proposed maps.
Thank you. One of the points that I have made in some of my community meetings, Chris, is that people are very focused. Some people are very focused on the city lines, boundaries. But I've wanted to emphasize and make the point, and so I'm going to do it again today with your help. What is the population of the unincorporated parts of Contra Costa County?
It's a good question. I don't have that at hand. I know that we did have that question.
Yeah. I think it was like 178,000. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it was close. It was definitely larger than all the other cities. It was the large. If you considered it a city, it would have been number 1.
Yeah, and David's looking for it. I can see him kind of. So I will say that it's under 178,000. I think it might be a little over. It's right around there. And the point that I'm trying to make is that that while all these communities are not in one place, all of that population is spread out throughout the whole county, and there's pockets of unincorporated all over. They don't have city councils. They don't have mayors. They don't have city managers. They don't have their own police departments, their own code enforcement. They don't have, the city services, and they don't even have as many representatives representing them on regional, committees. And so really the Board of Supervisors serves that purpose in a lot of ways for those unincorporated areas. And so the geography and the populations actually influence quite a bit, particularly like my district that has a lot of unincorporated, but has a fairly decent population, that, we're limited geographically because we have to consider our unincorporated areas. Do you want to say it better than me in some other way?
I agree with you very much. So the Board of Supervisors does have a function in the unincorporated area that's much wider than maybe its function is inside a city. Certainly it's important for the folks inside a city, but it does do many additional functions in the unincorporated area that would otherwise be done by a city. And so perhaps the weight of the unincorporated areas, it should be considered.
And it has to be, because we can't take, a certain unincorporated area and just push it over to this other supervisor when it's not geographically logical. And I really, it's supposed to be logical and fair what we're trying to do. So I just want to make sure that point is made, because while cities do benefit from county supervisors, because we are great partners and we like to work together and all of that, a huge part of our role is in the unincorporated areas on the ground for our population. I just wanted to make that point. As Mr. Twa, did you have something else to go with?
Madam Chair, no, nothing further at this point unless there's some specific questions.
Okay, so I'm going to let my colleagues make their comments and ask their questions. Supervisor Joya.
Yeah, and I will reserve my comments on all of this until after the speakers. I just wanted to I wanted to ask for two things when to show after public comment is, and to Chris Howard, to Jamie, and to David, I emailed a link. It's a link of the boundaries of the transportation advisory committees in this county. And I would like to show that when I make my comments. So I sent that email and I'd like to show that. It's a link to a map that shows SWAT and WCTAC and all of that and their boundaries. And then I sent over, is it possible to show the map that was in effect prior to 2010? You have that, I think Chris Howard does, and I may want to show that as well, because my comments are going to address a little bit of history and context here. So if you have the map that was in effect through 2010, if you could be prepared to show that as well. So otherwise, I'm going to wait and make my comments after the speakers.
All right, thank you, John. All right, so I think we're gonna all want to wait to see public comments. One other thing I want to make a point about is that, we've had some great success in our outreach efforts in the last couple of years. Census, we did fantastic. We went to great lengths with voter registration. We've done COVID outreach, tenant assistance, and we've seen the numbers. We've done very well, and we've been using those same messengers and same ways of outreach. And so, I'm concerned that, we haven't seen as many as we'd like, but I do feel like we've made quite an effort on outreach. So I'll just say that. All right, we're going to go to public comment. Jamie, you want to take it away?
If there any... And just before you get started, I just want to make a point that I think that one of the things we could look back on is that we made some major adjustments in 2011 that were pretty significant and had it was a good map. And I think that we could take some credit for the fact that you didn't get as many comments as because the maps weren't that bad up in the last session. So just want to throw that out there too.
I was muted. Thank you, Supervisor Glover. Go ahead, Jamie.
If there are any callers on the line or any Zoom participants who would like to speak on redistricting, please press #2 if you're on the phone or raise your hand in the Zoom app.
Si hay alguna persona que quiera hacer algún comentario sobre el tema de redistribución de distrito, si están en el teléfono, opriman el numeral 2 o si están en Zoom, levanten la mano, por favor. Gracias.
We have both callers and Zoom participants, and we will take the callers first.
All right, first caller, your line is now unmuted. Please go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Good morning, welcome.
Hi, my name is Yenny Garcia. I am from Richmond, and I just wanted to ask, I don't feel that we have had enough time to look at the new maps, and I'm asking for additional time just to be able to really explore all the new maps that are being proposed, and if possible, have an additional public hearing in early December so we can discuss I just feel we don't have enough time to really explore that. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right, moving on to the next caller in queue. Caller, your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Good morning, supervisors. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Okay, so I want to address page 9 of 34. Can you please confirm that you have the page up?
I'm sorry, this is for public comments, so please make your comments, and then we're not having conversations, and so go ahead.
Yeah, I want you to have the visual of what I'm looking at. So for page 9, I'm confused as to why the Asian citizen voting age population can be more than the total Asian population of the county. The race and ethnicity total population in orange on that page is at 16.8%. The citizen voting age population is at 17.9%. Doesn't make any sense. And also, what is considered as others? Just for disclosure, I'm a Taiwanese, so I'm an Asian yellow. Right now, your Asians are lumped together, brown, yellow, beige, all together. And I especially resent that you lumped me, someone who is from Taiwan, a democratic country, with communist Chinese. We are not the same Asians. We don't have the same political values. And I'm a Christian. They are atheists. There is a huge difference between us. And right now, the Chinatown is where I live. I didn't move to Chinatown. I'm an American. I want to live in America. I resent the way you guys developed this county is segregation led. Right now, I went from growing up as, an Asian living in America to now an Asian living in Chinatown in America. This is extremely disgusting. Thank you.
That is the last caller, and we can move on now to the Zoom participants.
All right, thank you. Let's see here. I have, 5 public comments, and if anybody, one just dropped off. So I'm going to go through the line. I'm going to invite you to be a panelist, and then you'll need to accept that invitation. You'll come on, you'll unmute yourself, and then you'll show your video if you like. Eddie Morris, you'll be the first, and then Eddie Berson, you'll be after. Eddie, please accept the invitation to be a panelist. And then please unmute yourself. And if you'd like to share your video, you're more than welcome to. Go ahead, Eddie. You have 2 minutes. You're still muted. Please unmute yourself. There you go.
Hi, my name is Eddie Morris. I'm a lead coordinator with Naomi Contra Costa and a co-founder of Rich Minds. I was just gratefully thankful for this opportunity to listen to the panel, to be at least asked to even speak, which I was supposed to be listening. But I just want to encourage the county that we do have a lot of outreaches going out in the community, and we're trying to reach out to the services as much as we can for the community. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. All right, our next public speaker is Eddie Berson. Eddie, you'll get an invitation. Please accept that. After that will be Deling. And so Eddie, please, there you go. And unmute yourself. And if you're going to share your video, go ahead. You have 2 minutes.
Hello, Eddie Berson here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
First, full disclosure, I am a council member in the city of Concord, former mayor, and I am a candidate for Board of Supervisor, whatever I hope is in District 4. So aside from that, I'd like to address a few things. One, while the county did an excellent job at trying to make outreach, as was noted, the response was underwhelming. And to have 100 people attend meetings is kind of small. However, even though the public engagement from their side is small, it doesn't relieve us from our responsibility to make the right decisions as relative to the priorities that we have. Having a city boundary is an important aspect. While having the unincorporated, they haven't gone through the step of creating their own community in terms of what is defined in your fair practices that you gave. I understand that the unincorporated, they're in all your various districts. So therefore, they have 5 representatives directly. Now, in the case of Concord, Concord has never been divided. We've had a situation where Walnut Creek was divided by 3, now by 2, and Antioch is divided. We even had a little Pinole divided. Apparently, Walnut Creek likes to be divided, according to their current leaders. I would urge that we look at the maps, and particularly map D, and try to make sure that that small portion of Concord is brought back into the city, and that possibly, since we are going to divide Antioch and Walnut Creek, that adjustments be made on that side to make up for people's balances. Thank you.
I have a question. Eddie, which line are you in on that particular map that I just want full disclosure. Is it because you'd be out of the line?
No.
Okay.
In all the maps I would be in, but it's actually politically, as far as I'm concerned, it's irrelevant for me. I've been in this fight for 10 years in terms of trying to keep cities whole and trying to make the best representation. I'm not a politician by career, at least not.
All right. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. And Diane, let me add, I think for full disclosure, we just should know there are 2 candidates currently from the Concord City Council running. There's a candidate from the Pleasant Hill City Council running. And of course, we've been around. If you're a council member, whoever it is from Concord, you want to have your base, because if you're running against somebody from the Pleasant Hill City Council, you want to have more Concord people in the district because you're running against somebody from Pleasant Hill. So I'm just making an observation of that's just, I'm not pinpointing this to any council member, because there's 2 council members from Concord running. And of course, any council member from Concord is going to benefit by having all of Concord in one district, because they're running against somebody who's from another city in Pleasant Hill, and all of that city is in the district. So I just wanted to make that observation. I'm not making a judgment. I'm just making just an observation.
Right.
And I'd like to point out that currently there is only one candidate from council in Concord who is announced.
Eddie, have a great day. Our next public speaker is Duling, and then Christy Laughlin will be after that. Duling, please accept the invitation. There you go. And unmute yourself. And if you're going to share your video, welcome. There you are.
Hello, everyone. First, thank you for allowing the Zoom platform. It's allowed for first-time mothers like myself to be able to participate. Secondly, I had just moved to Hercules in January, and I'm learning more about the history about how things have gone. And one thing I was just noticing, to me, the maps, all of the maps are interesting in that District 5 is east to west, but I feel like I purchase most of my goods and spend most of my time in Hercules, obviously, and also in El Esperante and Pinole and Richmond. So I would like to say that I don't think the maps that have been presented represent my interests, in that the tax dollars that I pay, I don't feel like serving Antioch on the other side definitely represent where I spend my time and my money. And then secondly, I also wanted to support the idea of having another public hearing in early December, either the first or second week. And third, I do appreciate you guys making time for public comment. I know that it's been very rushed with the census delay, et cetera. And then the other thing I wanted to say was, I was curious to know also what John Joya was saying about what the maps looked like before the 2011 redistricting. And I'm just wondering if there's any history of gerrymandering that happened at that redistricting, and want to make sure that we don't perpetuate anything that had happened at that time. Again, I'm still learning the history of things, but in making sure that we abide by the Fair Maps Act. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. Thank you for being curious. I really appreciate that. And we will cover the history after public comments. So thank you. The next public speaker is Christy Laughlin. And after that, it'll be Antoine Clorid. I hope I said that correctly. Christy, please accept the invitation. And then there you go. And then unmute yourself. And if you're going to share your video, you're more than welcome to. There you are. Welcome.
Well, good morning, supervisors. I'm Christy Laughlin with the East Bay Alliance for a Sustainable Economy. And I do want to applaud your efforts so far in the redistricting process and the let's get it done approach. However, I do want to ask that you slow down this fast moving train just a bit. I know there are pressures and deadlines, but I am urging you to make another stop at the station along this way to pick up a few more people and community members to engage in this process. There really is nothing more sacred in this democracy of ours than making the rules about how we vote and how people are represented and how our lines get drawn. So I do appreciate your outreach attempts, but also as an organization that works with low-wage immigrant workers and renters throughout the county and in Concord more deeply, we just need more time to engage them in this process. I think you all understand that we've been juggling a lot of outreach priorities with the pandemic, with new vaccines for kids and families, with the eviction moratorium and outreach. So this has been late to get on the radar screen of so many groups to engage the community. We need time to look at the impact of the proposed maps on low-wage workers, on immigrants and renters as key communities of interest. And to date, I actually haven't heard too much discussion so far in these conversations about recognizing them as communities of interest. So I do think they deserve a chance to be engaged. So I do urge you to, if you can, by all means, to offer another public hearing in early December and give our organizations a chance to engage impacted communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. You know, I can understand that a lot of these community groups have been very busy, but I know early or late last year and early this year, I was telling people, look, this is coming. The data is going to be coming to us late. We're going to have an escalated schedule. You got to be ready for this. And we tried to put the timeline out to as many folks as possible. So I know it feels like it's being rushed, but we've been communicating this for quite a while. Yeah.
I just want to note, because we're hearing from a number of public speakers that they need more time. We're having another hearing on November 23rd during the week of Thanksgiving because we recognize how important this is. So there's still 2 more weeks. And I don't support going into December because that just it puts too much pressure to get this done by the legal deadline. So I would let everyone know who's listening that we have another hearing on November 23rd. Nothing's being decided today. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next public speaker is Antoine. And then after that, it'll be JHA. Antoine, please accept the invitation to be a panelist. All righty. Antoine, I'm going to give you one more chance and then we'll move you down the line. Antoine, if you'd like to join us for public comment. Okay, there you are. And please unmute yourself. You have 2 minutes. Welcome.
Yes, I just want to say that when you look at these maps, what we found in Richmond when they did these maps and rezoning maps, the Black community was really not engaged because they didn't engage themselves. So those numbers does not reflect what you have in the Black and brown communities because the politics in our communities, we don't believe in anymore. I'm just being honest with you. So when you ask our Black and brown people to come engage in politics, how does it affect them? What are they going to benefit out of it? I talk to these people all the time and try to get them to vote and try to get them to do that. it doesn't, you know, they come when they want us to do something, but then when it come down to us, we don't get nothing. So they don't want to be a part of the process. And y'all have to fix that part. Y'all have to fix that for real for us to be accountable, accounted in these processes when you start doing these numbers of our Black and brown communities, because Antioch and Pittsburgh is full of Black folks now because they've been regentrified out of Richmond. So they're not even in here. We were 80% in Richmond. Now we're 4% of the population now. So they all pinned Pittsburgh, Antioch, and Brentwood. That's where we all at now. So we really have to take a look at those maps and re-engage yourself. You know, you talk about 4 weeks, that's not going to count our people. You know what I'm saying? Like the young lady you said, you know, we got poor people out there that need to be accounted for. So when y'all start reallocating these funds, it goes to the people that need it. Because if you do it and don't do that, you're going to still be neglected and deprived in these maps. Thank you.
Thank you, Antoine. Our next public speaker is JHA, admin, and then IG. JHA, please unmute yourself. And then if you have a video, you're more than welcome to share it. Welcome.
Good morning. It's Anna Marie Avila Farias. I'm sorry, I'm computer hopping today, so I apologize. I was on my phone and then trying to get this computer to go. But thank you, supervisors, for this very important meeting and for doing the outreach that you all are doing. I can understand the public sentiment. As we all know, we have all been following this process, and it is a very short, quick timeline. However, I am disappointed with the actual outreach. I just, you know, you can spend a lot of time and resources, but the numbers speak in volumes of the lack of engagement from the forums. The numbers are really disappointing. So clearly the effort wasn't spent in the right places to get people at the table. In addition, you know, this is not an easy task to have, you know, the community members be able to draw maps and really calculate those numbers. So we're basically adopting the same maps that we saw 10 years ago with some cleanup of some lines. And I just want to make you all cognizant that, you know, you may be touching on the line of violating the Fair Acts map. And I don't think that's fair to this community, to the county as a whole, to see a replica of the 2011 maps roll out again, and not a forum to really create and structurally change our maps to really elevate people in our communities' voices and communities of interest. So I just want to point that out. So you may want to entertain an extension and really entertain really redesigning these maps and really thinking about it. I was surprised not to see a north to south map. You know, Diane's district is a model that kind of goes north to south. So I'm not sure why we didn't continue that. But appreciate your time. And I think you need to relook at your voter outreach or district outreach, because the attendance was just not there, and to not be flexible and granting an extension for more dialogue would be very disappointing. But thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Anna Marie. Our next public speaker is IG, or Irene Graham. And so Irene, please accept an invitation to be a panelist, and then we'll have Carlin Obringer after that. Hi, Irene, please unmute yourself. And if you wish to share your video, you're welcome to. Go ahead, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for giving the space for these comments. I'm really happy to hear that this isn't the only meeting, there will be another one, because I do think we do need more time to look at these maps. I also agree with what was just said by the last panelist, that it kind of looks like a lot of these maps are based on what was done previously, and I guess it is easier when you have an old format to just kind of tweak it a little bit, and then present, you know, something that is not making too great of changes. But I do want to comment that one of the parts of redistricting that is important, and I'm reading it from, you know, one of your bulletins about redistricting, is to the extent possible and where practicable, the districts must be drawn to encourage geographical compactness in a manner that nearby areas of population are not excluded from a district in favor of including more distant populations. The District 5 is quite stretched out and oddly shaped compared to other districts. It is a little confusing why this one is shaped the way that it is, and concerning to me. Also, I wanted to ask if I could just have it clarified if it's there has to be 5 districts. I know you're still having trouble trying to get the variance of the populations, you know, as even as possible. So I wanted to ask that as well. If it's a law that there has to be 5 districts total, or if there can be suggestions.
Thank you, Irene. You do have 2 minutes as a public speaker. You have 20-second kind of warning to let you know that you have about 20 seconds left. Our next public speaker is Carlin Obringer, and that'll be our last public speaker on this item. Carlin, please accept the invitation to be, all right, so I'm gonna ask, this is the last call for public speakers. I have Addie that just came on. Anybody else that wants to speak, please raise your hand. And then we have an 11 o'clock Veterans Day thing. And so I need to try to get my meeting. And if we were in a boardroom, I'd have you all lining up. So I'm going to ask.
But Diane, I assume we're going to finish this item and not break.
No. We're going to finish this item.
Good. Okay.
We're going to finish this item. But I just want to get our public speakers all lined up. So Cora Mitchell, you're going to be the last public speaker. And I appreciate everybody stepping up. Good morning, Carlin. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning, supervisors. My name is Carlin Obringer, and I'm speaking to you today in my capacity as a Concord City Council member and as the council member who represents District 2, which is being proposed to be split under these district maps. And in full disclosure, regardless of which map is chosen, that does not impact me personally. I would remain in District 4. I know you asked that question already, Supervisor Burgess. But, you know, I was just engaged in a community cleanup on Saturday with the residents of the Solano neighborhood, which would be removed from Concord under even Map D. And those constituents were very concerned. They already feel isolated as there is a freeway going through that part of town. And so they were asking me, why are we being cut out of Concord? Why can't we stay? And so that is a good question. And so I'm calling to advocate for Concord to be kept whole. In particular, as a council member who represents both BART stations here in Concord, I already do have challenges with trying to deal with 2 different BART directors, depending on what the issue is in downtown Concord versus North Concord. I'm also very concerned about potentially losing our downtown, which is the heart of Concord's identity, and placing that in another district. And I also have heard from the community at our last city council meeting, some of the sentiments that you heard articulated this morning about there needing to be some more time for community engagement. So I want to call your attention to a letter that the Concord City Council unanimously sent to all of you, advocating for the city of Concord to be kept whole, advocating for extended time for community engagement. And if that's not possible, our preference would be Map D. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Our next public speaker is Addie. Addie, you've done this before, so please accept the invitation. And then after that will be Cora, and Cora will be our last public speaker on this item. Addie, unmute yourself and share your video if you'd like this morning. There you come. There you go. Welcome.
Good morning. I appreciate mention of concerns to comply with the Fair Maps Act, even if the county feels it's obeying the letter to the law. The spirit of it lacks some community engagement, and therefore I feel the input has been limited. The discussion has not been, we mentioned community interest, but I haven't heard much community interest, and I hope that you'll highlight some of those in your own discussion. And how are we empowering BIPOC communities to stay together, rather than hearing concerns about these legal variants to stay under 5 or 10. When I was using the tool, I could see if I was staying within 5%, but I didn't know how I was going to stay under the 10% requirement. And it just shows how difficult the tool can be, yet, seem easily to use, to draw and play with. Instead, I heard staff giving feedback about these concerns, but not hearing any feedback about the community interests that they were maybe seeing or provided. If none were received, then that means we definitely need more time to participate in this process. And I'm concerned that these maps look too similar to the maps that currently exist, except for some considerations to population growth. We haven't looked at any maps that look at dividing the county north to south, and we're not trying to explore other ways that we could be looking at communities of interest. That might make any of you supervisors nervous about those lines, but again, this is about community of interest and trying to look at new ways to un-gerrymander these maps as people have felt has happened in the past. So please, again, consider those communities of interest. I emailed some of mine to you, so they should be in your packets. And I also agree with Councilmember Obringer, who talked about the Solano neighborhood that I didn't express in my email. That was a good point to make, that those residents also should not be excluded because there's a lot of diversity in the Solano area.
Thank you, Addie. Our last public speaker is Cora Mitchell. Cora, please accept the invitation to be a panelist. There you go. Unmute yourself. If you're going to share your video, you're welcome to do so. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you so much for taking the time for me to comment. I just want to remind you guys that this is a process that only happens once every 10 years. And it's a really sacred part of democracy, really, is drawing these lines and making sure that we get it right the first time, because we're not going to redo them for 10 years. So I know that it might feel a little aggravating that outreach efforts really didn't result in the amount of engagement that would seem more meaningful, but I don't really see what the downside would be to making every effort and exhausting every opportunity to get as many people as possible involved in this process, because again, this is not something that we're going to have to redo every 2 years. So I hope that you will all take the time to just go ahead and slow it down and schedule more opportunities, broaden the outreach efforts to, I don't know if we need to reach out to schools to try to get parents involved, but this is really important to hear from community members on where they feel these lines should be drawn. Ultimately, it should be up to those who are most vulnerable, really, to make sure that they feel that they have a seat at the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Cora. So even though I asked for the last person to raise their hand, I have one more person, and I try to be as inclusive as I can. So Stephen McCaffrey, I'm going to invite you to be to provide your public comment. Please accept the invitation. Unmute yourself. And public comments are now closed. This is our last speaker. Please unmute yourself and share your video if you like. Please unmute yourself. Stefan, please, there you go. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead. We can't hear you, and so there may be an issue with your microphone. Event services, are you seeing anything that you can see with all of your, that I need to?
No, it's not even moving either, so I can't even tell if you're speaking.
Okay, I'm sorry, Stefan. We're not able to hear you today, so we're going to move on. Alrighty, so I have John's hand raised, Federal's hands raised, so we're just going to go down the line. Go ahead, John.
Thanks, Diana. First, I want to start I appreciate everybody's interest in hearing all the comments. I think at the hearing we did in San Pablo and West County, we had around 20, and there's clearly been less participation this time than there was in 2011. And I think there has been, if my mind is reflecting correctly, that there's actually been as much or more outreach now than there was 10 years ago. There's also a much better website that really allows people to draw their own map. And so just an observation, whatever it was due to, I think there's been more outreach this time than 10 years ago, but there has been less input, and I'm open to having another hearing. So, you know, I'm never, as long as we keep the deadline, I'm open to having more public opportunity. Let me answer a couple questions before I put up some maps of history here. And a couple speakers talked about whether to have more than 5. Under state, we are a general law county. And under state law, general law counties have 5 supervisors. There would need to be a change in state law. There are 58 counties in California, ranging from Alpine County with 1,200 people to Los Angeles County with 10 million people. 57 of those 58 counties have 5 supervisors. Some of them are charter counties where they could change it, but chose not to. Others are general law counties like ours, which are subject to state law. There is only one county, San Francisco, because it is unique. It is the only city and county in the state. It has 11 supervisors. So a little context there. So we would need a change in state law to go more than 5. I want to ask Chris Howard, I had time to put up the map that existed prior to 2011, because that was the map that changed to go to the current map. And I want to just make a comment as he's putting it up. For folks in Hercules, I would love to have Hercules in District 1, and the speaker was correct that Hercules relates a lot more to Pinole, El Sobrante. The problem is District 1 cannot expand beyond Pinole. We would exceed the deviation that state law and other federal state laws sort of place on us. So we really cannot go beyond Pinole. So I think one of the things to realize is we are all trying to develop maps to keep regions of the county and communities of interest together, while at the same time abiding by these very strict number guidelines. So that is why Hercules cannot be put in with Pinole and El Sobrante, because District 1 would exceed. And there's frankly, the rest of it is a community of interest. So prior to 2011, this was the map. And if you look at it, and there was a lot of opposition to some of this as well. District 2 had, which is now Supervisor Anderson's district, had West County, Central County, and La Orinda, South County. 3 totally sort of different parts of the county: Pinole, Hercules area, Martinez, Lafayette, Orinda, Moraga. And then you had this Far East County, which was Brentwood, Discovery Bay, the agricultural area, crossing over this area where there's really no population in the Tasajara Valley, south of Mount Diablo, and then going up to the San Ramon Valley and Walnut Creek. So you had Central, South, and Far East. 3, really 2 distinct areas of the county. And so when the board changed it, if anything, I would consider this map. I mean, I want to be careful to use this term, but I would consider this map looks more gerrymandered than the 2010 map, because you have, folks in Orinda don't claim a lot in common with Pinole and Hercules, and folks in Walnut Creek and Danville don't claim a lot in common with Brentwood and Discovery Bay. So the map was changed to try to divide the county into regions. So I'm going to first ask before putting up the current map, is to put up the map of the transportation advisory committees that exist in the county. You know, our county is divided into 4, not 5, transportation advisory committees to look at transportation issues relevant for different parts of the county. So if you can put that up next. I assume that's what you're doing. Yeah. No, yeah, that's it. So this is an interesting map because this shows how the county is. There's actually 4 regions. SWAT, even though there's a line, there's SWAT, Transplan, Transpac, and WICTAC. And these are the 4 transportation planning areas that have been around for decades, where city council members and county supervisors from these areas get together to plan the common transportation issues for those parts of the county. And you can see there's an East County that's Pittsburgh, Antioch, Oakley, Brentwood, and Discovery Bay. There's a West County, right? Hercules down to Richmond. There's a Central County, Martinez, Pleasant Hill, Concord, Walnut Creek. And then there's the La Orinda, San Ramon Valley of Danville, San Ramon, Orinda, Moraga, Lafayette. That's one region. So it's 4 areas. I don't know why this shows a line, Candace, of Tri-Valley, La Orinda, but it's SWAT is one agency, right?
We are one agency, and right. We don't have 2 subcommittees.
Yeah. So, and of course, this is 4. We have to divide the county into 5. And this, I think, I grew up in Richmond and Contra Costa. And for years, right, those of us who live on the west side, Richmond to Hercules, consider ourselves different than people who live in Central County, different sets of issues, more urban, more diverse. People in La Orinda, you know, similar sets of issue. People in Tri-Valley, people out in East County, pretty large area, and people in Central. So that's sort of, and remember, there's pretty big geographic sort of and geologic features dividing. You have Mount Diablo in the middle. And so go now to the map that's currently in effect. I know that's as it's put up. One of the things I want to say is it's put up is there was an attempt here to keep Concord whole. And the impact of that was to split Antioch and split Pinole. If the north part of Concord at that time had been put into District 5, Antioch would have all been in District 3, and Pinole would have all been in District 1. So at that time, for a number of reasons, the board favored Concord, and at that time, split Antioch and Pinole. Neither Antioch or Pinole at the time wanted to be split. So they're trade-offs, right? And Concord and Antioch and Richmond being the larger cities in the county. So this, the idea here was starting from the west, you can only go so far east up the I-80 corridor. And most of the maps that are on the table, basically all of them actually show Pinole coming into District 1 and not being split. You can't go any further because then District 1 becomes too big. I was actually a staff person when I was in law school in the 1980s for the District 1 supervisor. And at that time, District 1 didn't include El Sobrante, for example, because of population issues. It's gone east as the population shifts have happened. So there's really nowhere else for District 1 to go other than taking on the rest of Pinole. And then starting from the east, right? Brentwood, Oakley, Discovery Bay, and Far East County, and moving west. Folks talked about District 3 being a northwest. It's actually a north-south district. No, it's actually an east-west district. There is literally no population, minimal population south of Brentwood. The population, I mean, all of that open space area. Far East County, down to the county line, agricultural, grazing lands, agricultural, and the populated areas of Brentwood, Oakley, and then going west into Antioch. And then the issue is how much of Antioch, and obviously there are limits on how much of Antioch it could take. It has most of it, some of it's in District 5 because of population. And then the Central County area, Concord, Pleasant Hill, part of Walnut Creek, and Clayton. And then folks ask, what's sort of the history of this District 5 industrial waterfront? So I'll tell you what the reasoning was at the time. And I'm going to ask now for the map showing industry to be up. Folks have talked a lot about also communities of interest, but I didn't hear the term environmental justice used. And as someone's on the Air District, I think I care a lot about environmental justice issues. So if you can put up the industry followed by the asthma map. So District 5 includes where the bulk of industry is in the county. You can see the refineries, the chemical plants, and obviously extending into my district as well. My district, District 1, going along the waterfront of Rodeo, Crockett, out toward Martinez, Bay Point, Pittsburgh, is where most of the heavy industry in this county is located. And also where a number of lower income communities are that live near that industry and are impacted by that industry, and are environmental justice communities. So can we now put up the asthma map? Which shows where the highest rates of asthma are in this county. The darker the green, the higher the rates. ED rates by census tract, right? So, and what this shows is, and really for those of us, and I know Supervisor Glover works a lot on this issue as well, who really have tried to work on these issues. A lot of this high rate of asthma is driven by several factors. Lower income communities of color, access to healthcare, proximity to industry, air pollution issues, common sets of issues, right? Along the waterfront in Antioch, Pittsburgh, Bay Point, above Martinez, Crockett, Rodeo, and then of course down into my district. So folks have asked, what unites this area? These communities have very similar sets of issues on environmental justice, health, industry. So we have this, what we're calling the industrial waterfront, West County, industrial waterfront, East County, Central County, La Orinda, San Ramon Valley. The one thing I will ask, David, is we want to ensure, I know in the maps, that the monument corridor in Concord is kept whole. And my understanding is in these maps, they are kept whole, because that is a clear community of interest in Concord. So I think this gives a perspective for how these maps developed. When you're in East County, you say, I live in East County, or in West, I live in West. I live in the San Ramon Valley. I live in La Orinda. I live in Central County. So the final map I want to show, somebody asked, well, how can we increase Latinx representation by changing maps around? And someone had asked, what happens if you put Concord into the same district as Pittsburgh and Bay Point? So I actually asked the staff just to put that together so we could just look at the ethnicity numbers. Because right now, under the existing maps that we have, my District 1 is 40% Latinx. Supervisor Glover's district is about 35% Latinx, and then Supervisor Mitchell's district's around 30%. So it's 3 districts of 30% or more. So what happens if do you make the districts better in that regard to increase Latinx representation? And what actually happens if you put Concord in with Bay Point and Pittsburgh, because I know there was some suggestion of at least taking a look at it, so I wanted to do that. What happens is you'll see this District 4 is shown on the map, which Walnut Creek, Pleasant Hill, going up to Martinez. Actually, that becomes, I'm looking at the numbers, about 15.5% Latinx. No, excuse me, is that right? The 4%. So let me actually pull up. Excuse me, I need to change the number, take that back. Karen's district, so that becomes 15.5% Latinx, and then 5 becomes 39.9. So actually what you have is Latinx going up in one district and down in the other. So it sort of ends up being a wash, and it ends up not adding, I think, you have District 4 goes down dramatically in terms of Latinx representation. District 5 goes up a bit. So you can go back to the existing map. So I just wanted to show that context. So just to put the existing map back up. And so I think, so people have asked, why are the lines not very different? And you're right, under the proposed, they're not very different. But I think what the staff try to do is step back and look at it again from what makes sense from a community of interest standpoint. And the principles are, I mean, communities of color are kept together in these cities, Pittsburgh and Bay Point. Bay Point is the largest Latinx population in the county, with Pittsburgh having a high percent as well, and then large African-American population. And Pittsburgh and Bay Point are together, and the waterfront area of Antioch. And so, you know, those areas are not split. So I think that the staff tried to do the best job with the direction from the board and hearing from the public to try to keep communities of interest, which include communities of color, together. Clearly in my district, District 1 is the most diverse district, with 22% of the population being white and the rest being communities of color. So I am open to hearing more, but I wanted to provide that perspective and history to show the development. And I'm not certain that a district that goes from Martinez down into Lafayette, Moraga, Orinda, the north-south, is a community of interest and makes sense. That was the district that existed prior to 2010. And we heard a lot from folks of you know, those are varying parts of the district, just like we heard why are folks in Walnut Creek in the same district as Brentwood. So you can see these are more compact districts. The population centers are compact in East County, West County, Central, Southwest, and then the industrial waterfront, which have similar sets of issues along that waterfront.
All right, thank you, John. I do want to, just for housekeeping, let people know that we do have a Veterans Day observance scheduled at 11, but because this is a public hearing, we're going to finish this and then we will start the Veterans Day observance as soon as we're able to finish this hearing. I just wanted
And by the way, I am open to having another hearing as the board decides.
Well, we're going to let everybody have their comments and then we'll move on to our recommendations. Candace, go ahead.
I thought I was next. I'm sorry.
He took down his hand, but he wanted to
go.
Oh,
that's fine. I'm sorry. Yeah. Federal, go ahead, Federal.
Okay, I didn't see anyone else's. Well, I guess I do see Candace's. Anyway, John, I want to really thank you because those are some of the things that I was going to point out, in particular as it relates to District 5 and community of interest, because one of the things that's been pointed out since I've been on board is that the two males that are on there now become the bookends of the county. And one of the reasons that that you see east running west is the area of commonality where we do have the northern waterfront, but in particular, as we deal with some of the health disparities that have taken place, they run along that corridor there. You know, with a refinery being in Rodale, a refinery being in Martinez, refinery being a petrochemical company being up in the Pittsburgh, Antioch area, with all of the power plants also being in those particular areas. So there's a community of interest there. And at the same time, that's where your largest health disparities are taking place. So when you look at that, I mean, I would have been very satisfied with staying in the district that I was elected in initially, and that would have been Bay Point all the way out to Brentwood. But because of the adjustments that had to be made there, in order to try to have that interest laid out, we've seen some opportunities in which was that critical mass, in particular when it dealt with some of the health disparities and asthmatic issues that exist within the county, being within these two districts where there is logic behind connectivity there. So, John, I appreciate you bringing those maps up and pointing some of those things out, because that's exactly where my points were going. I think the other thing that we have to look at is when talking about the maps and the shifts that have come down through the years, I don't know that that I've heard good justification, understanding that we are going to have to split some of the cities. You know, I haven't heard really good justification to say that these splits that have been seen thus far are really at any particular critical mass for a city. So those are just my points. And let me just say that I think that we've done a great job of outreach. I think there's been ample opportunity for people to make their comments, draw their maps, be engaged. And we've done a good job of getting that out there on the backs of what has happened with COVID and on the backs of what has happened with the census. There's been a great networking plan that has been put together, even based on that. So I'm really not interested in having another meeting. What I would say is that I think that as we have generated interest around this issue, that we're going to see a robust turnout come the 23rd if people are engaged now. And so there's other opportunities, and for people to get their maps in, to be able to view those maps and to get that in also. So maybe it's good that we're with the one more session, because hopefully people will come out and participate at that level. Thank you, Diane. That's all I have.
Thank you, Carol. I'm sorry for missing you. So much going on. Go ahead, Candace, and then Karen after you'll go.
Thank you. You know, this is something I have looked forward to for many years, because it is, as one speaker mentioned, one of the most important things we get to do every 10 years. And how do we really bring together communities of interest? And we really laid that foundation with our census, where we identified communities of interest throughout the county. We got tremendous participation compared to other counties. And for the last 2 years with the census, part of every census presentation was, and we are going to be redistricting, and you have this opportunity to be involved. And once we got through the census, I was out speaking to community groups in my district saying, okay, redistricting is coming. What do you think? What do you want? Even before we started the public hearings. And I had tremendous feedback from the communities, because many people did perceive, and I know, John, you and I have had this very funny discussion before, they felt a little bit, the only part of gerrymandering of 2010 was severing out Blackhawk and Diablo and the Tassajara Valley from the community of interest of Danville and San Ramon. And that's the primary feedback I have received this time is, reunite the San Ramon Valley, and each of the proposed maps has accomplished this. I do not see gerrymandering in this map. And while I sort of lightheartedly say back 2010, some of us perceived that as gerrymandering, that's not a legal term of gerrymandering. It was simply a perception by those of us who are elected officials in the San Ramon Valley, which is very different than a legal challenge based upon inappropriate districts being drawn. There was no such challenge. And both Mary and Diane represented very, very well that portion of District 3 that was in the San Ramon Valley. But as to the timing of everything, starting this summer, we had the ability to start mapping communities of interest. And I was doing that. I was excited to start looking at these communities of interest. And we did a tremendous amount of outreach. I don't know that as we continue outreach, we would still get that much public participation. While there's great interest in congressional districts, great interest in state assembly, state senate districts, county districts, and even our role as county supervisors aren't always at the highest of everyone's list. But I think as John gave us a very apt history of communities of interest where you want to keep them together so they can have a supervisor advocate on their behalf, I am not seeing a tremendous discrepancy in these communities of interest. I think it's important that we continue to move forward because we were unfortunately given a little bit of a compressed timeline to accomplish our hearings, but that didn't force us to compress the opportunities for public comment, public feedback. And so with the fact that we still have another public hearing 2 weeks from now, and I haven't heard from our speakers, they keep saying, well, just delay it, give us more time. We want to, have more time to look at it. I'm not hearing though articulated concerns of you've split a community of interest or you failed to include this area with that area. So I'm not really seeing the benefit of it. And again, we've got 2 weeks. If you can't use the mapping tool, but you just have some concerns, we take those public comments as well. So those are my comments. Looking forward to the future hearing. And I do appreciate the fact that so much time has been spent by so many people on this. And I'm very comfortable with how we've redrawn District 2. And certainly I think the big issue will be, with regard to Concord, what's the appropriate division if there? And I appreciate that Walnut Creek has sent us a letter once again articulating that they felt they benefited from having 2 supervisors represent that community. And I see it as beneficial. While yes, all 5 of us represent the entire county, having a supervisor who is your direct contact on issues is very helpful. And frankly, I would love having 2 rather than just 1 myself. So thank you.
Thank you, Candace. Karen?
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate what my colleagues have said and thank John for the basically a tutorial, and which was very important. And I agree with Candace. I haven't heard any reason for us to continue this, especially since we've done a lot of outreach. There's been ample opportunity. I would posit that the lack of interest is that the majority of our constituency and our residents aren't really paying attention to this. They feel they've been well served, and they unfortunately, frankly, don't care. Because if they did, we know what happened. Well, at least John Federal and I, and Candace was paying attention, and I'm sure Diane was too, back in 2011, that generated so much public input. But that was because the districts were dramatically changing. And so I am happy to move forward. We'll have our hearing on November 23rd. Question to staff is, are you looking for any direction today, or this was just another opportunity to present where we're at to the public?
Madam Chair, Supervisor, if I can respond to that. Basically, we are hoping for direction today on one of those maps simply because of the timelines that are required for the publication of it, as well as County Council having time to draft the resolution. It's a complicated process because it has to be done by the census data. And so we're hoping that we would have some direction for a final map that would then be presented for your discussion and hopefully approval on the November 23rd public hearing.
Okay, well then I'm going to advocate for map D. We all received, and it's in the public record, a letter from the city of Concord asking to be kept whole. I've met with them. it's just not possible anymore. It's the largest city in the county, and at some point it will be split, and this is the year that's going to happen. Map D is the one with the least intrusion into the city of Concord, and I thank Council Member Obringer for mentioning that is part of her district. And I believe it was Ms. McLaughlin mentioned, and or some others perhaps, that area doesn't want to be separated from current District 4. I would, again, remind folks that it is not something that we take lightly, and it isn't to diminish any community's and or citizens' voice. You now have 2 supervisors, and again, this one does not go down into a lot of the downtown. Map C does take more, and it really does divide the community and has more potential. So not only do I, as the supervisor for District 4, recommend to my colleagues Map D, but I wanted to voice the residents and constituents I represent in Concord that I believe this is the one that has the least impact on their community. Thank you.
And I'll second your motion, which I assume that was a motion.
I will move Map D.
Okay. I didn't think we're voting on it. We're not voting on Map D.
Wait. I get to do comments too. I have a motion and I have a second.
Well, I'm not sure. David was asking for a motion. He was looking for direction. Yep. So I like Map D, and I'm hearing Supervisor Candison likes Map D.
And then I wanted to make a comment. Nope, I get to make a comment. I'm the chair. I have all the power. I'm teasing. I would say that I will be, I think Map D is the logical one for me as well. And I do want to say that if I could have all of Antioch, I would. But like I said earlier, we have unincorporated areas. We have those populations we need to serve. And so I'm trying to make sure that, and that's throughout the whole county, that we are considering all of those unpopulated areas as well. And so as John very well, we should have just take that videotape and share that with people. I will be supporting Map D.
Madam Chair, if I could just comment on that. Basically, what we are asking you to do is to direct us to prepare a final map for your consideration at the November 23rd meeting.
Then I so do request and direct that staff prepare Map D for the consideration on November 23rd.
Okay, and then I think John or Federal, you had a comment?
Yeah, prior to a vote on that, can you put Map D back up again for our own advocacy and also for the public to understand what the work is going to be? And Chris, if you could so eloquently walk through that again.
Sure thing, Supervisor Glover. So this is Map D. This is the detailed page with all the charts and data showing a 9.77 variation. In detail, again, we'll go through in a counterclockwise fashion. District 1 goes to Pinole. The Release Valley area here will be split by the school district. Walnut Creek here is shown split by Highway 24 and Interstate 680. And at this point, I'd like to add a very small detail here. There's an area south here right next to the Castle Hill where when we prepared these original maps, we put it into District 4. It was currently in District 4 now. And we didn't think, we thought it was all kind of the right of way next to the freeway. There was no people there, but we've been doing a lot of detailed looking here, and we found there was actually 8 people over there. They're on the west side of the freeway, but they're in incorporated Walnut Creek. And so we would like to suggest that for the final map, we move that tiny area. You get to it from Alamo. It's adjacent to houses in Alamo. We'd like to suggest that gets moved to District 2 as well. So it would be a change of 8 people from the numbers on this current map D. And then continuing further as you go around San Ramon Valley, Diablo, Blackhawk, Comunidad Sahara go to District 2. The Morgan Territory Road area goes to District 4. Here in Antioch, the split follows Summersville Road all the way from the city limit to the Union Pacific Railroad north of Highway 4, which is the old yellow line in this map. Then it follows Union Pacific Railroad all the way across Antioch to Highway 160, which is also the city limit with Oakley, and follows the city limit up to the county boundary. In Concord, the split goes from, it follows the former railroad right-of-way here till it hits Highway 242. Then it follows that up to where Highway 242 hits Highway 4 and follows that out here to the city limit.
Okay.
All righty. And then John, you had a comment?
Yeah, could you put the map back up, please? That map D. Chris, just a couple questions. I want to make sure I know there was a change that the existing boundary out on Bear Creek Road remains the line. Is that, it's hard to tell here.
Oh,
the existing boundary is
yes.
Bear Creek Road, and that's
right.
Rather than cut across Bear Creek Road, is what, I don't know, I don't even know if there's anybody that lives out there. Or there's the cemetery out there, but but Bear Creek Road is the existing line, and it seems that that's a natural line to maintain rather than cutting in and back out.
That's right, John. This area here was slightly different on the previous concept maps, and it followed different census geography here. And this area is now going to follow the existing lines, which is in fact Bear Creek Road.
Got it. Okay, so that shows Bear Creek Road. Okay. That's right. That is the line. And just to answer, I know folks may wonder what's that little purple arm of District 2 going up toward Kensington. That area is just probably a handful of people because I've asked about this. Those folks are in the Moraga Orinda Fire District, correct? And in the Orinda Unified School District, there's probably 10 people out there in that area above Tilden. So can you explain that further?
I sure can. So you can see here and I'm going to zoom in here on this area because it's a little bit hard to see, but the existing boundary followed, this top boundary here is Wildcat Canyon Road. And this is Tilden Park here. And so Tilden Park, and there's a bit here that's part of the University of California campus. And then this is a ridge. So the fire, Moraga Orinda Fire District actually kind of encompasses most of Tilden Park and the school district as well. There's actually not any people in this area here, but it is adjacent to the city of Orinda. And we felt that there was a real sense that they wanted to have part of this ridgeline as it is part of their fire district as well.
Right.
So the change would be here, portions of Tilden Park.
Got it. Okay.
I gave up the steam trains, I believe, to John.
You're not taking on any Kensington residents, Candace.
No.
They would not want to be split either.
No. I would say Tilden Park is such a beloved part of our county and Alameda County, but there aren't a lot of people living in it. So it made sense given the geographic. I had a long discussion, of course, with David and Chris about how that would best work to ensure that we still were having the fire district cover where it needed to.
Right. We wanted to make sure we've looked at those issues of fire districts, school districts. I know when we get down to these lines. In fact, frankly, I have District 1 is all of West Contra Costa unified, except for the part Hercules is split, as Supervisor Glover knows, between the John Swett School District and West Contra Costa. And it would have been great to get, Hercules, but it doesn't work. The population's too big for me to take on. In District 1. So that's part of and Diane mentioned about Antioch. She could not, under this map, take on all of Antioch either because it would also put her numbers over. In fact, one of the reasons her district goes into the Camino Tasajara area was because she needed to pick up population, getting back to the issue where Concord was not. Three things happened when North Concord wasn't split off. Pinole was split, Antioch was split, and Supervisor Burgess's district had to swing around across the Tasajara Valley into Camino Tasajara, which is, it's good that that is being fixed, because clearly people in Blackhawk, Camino Tasajara are more in common with Danville and San Ramon than they do with Brentwood, Byron, and Discovery Bay. So I think that is being fixed in this map from 10 years ago, and that is clearly, I think, keeps that community of interest together.
Alrighty, yeah, and I may, Chris, reach out to you, because I know that in the community along Marsh Creek Road, there's kind of some that go to Clayton and some that go towards Brentwood. And I know you use the Mount Diablo Unified School District line. So, but I know that there's some communities that kind of favor going the other direction. So I may work with you on that a little bit. But we have a motion and a second. Mr. Twa, do you have the directions and input that you needed for today?
Madam Chair, yes, I do.
All righty. So, Jamie, I'm going to do a roll call vote since we have a motion and a second.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes. So that was unanimous.